All right, we're on. Welcome to Timeless Personal Growth and Development. And we're talking about brainwashing today. It's everywhere, it's happening to you all the time. And it begins at an extremely young age. When we're out of the womb. As soon as we're able to start processing information, even as a very young child, we start watching movies. It starts from there. And we need to be aware of the fact that everything we're doing, we're being brainwashed in some sense. And there's usually a negative meaning behind brainwashing. You hear the term brainwashing and it sounds negative. Making a group of people or making an individual believe in a certain set of morals or values or ideas, whether those ideas are positive or negative. It's forcing people to believe in something that may be helpful or not, may be reality based or not, may be true or not. But it's not necessarily bad. It can be, but not all the time. But we just need to be aware of the fact, and this is what this video is about today, is it's just the fact that it's happening all the time. All the time. Like right now. You watching this video, this is me brainwashing you. To a certain extent, it is. Because I'm trying to make you aware and open up a little bit to the fact that you are being brainwashed all the time. Essentially, yeah, I'm brainwashing you to believe that, and just to be more aware of what you're taking in and what you're watching. And like what led me to make this video today is primarily it was the pandemic. And 2 years ago, the pandemic hit, and everyone was just glued to their phones and glued to the news, and it really changed my perspective of news media. And and media networks, it completely changed my perspective. That news media has a narrative that they want to push, and that narrative can either be true or not, helpful or not. But it's brainwashing. News media is essentially brainwashing. What the reporting is true or not, it doesn't matter. But they want you to believe a certain narrative, and they're pushing that narrative. And it's the same thing that's happening in Ukraine, the same thing. And that's why I try not to follow it. I shut myself down from the news in media because it's going to make you believe a certain narrative, a certain perspective. And it's to develop the ability to think critically about what you're seeing and what you're digesting and form your own opinion about it. And just be aware of the fact that whatever you're taking in, whatever you're watching, what you're watching is a simple YouTube video about cats or babies, or you're watching the news about a pandemic or the war in Ukraine, whatever it is. Just be aware of the fact that it's going to change your way of thinking. And when you're more aware of the fact that everything you watch, everything you take in is essentially brainwashing, you'll be able to filter negative aspects of it out and be able to think more critically and have an objective opinion about it. Because when we give into that brainwashing and we believe everything that's being fed to us, everything that we're watching, everything that we're taking in, it affects our behavior, it affects our psyche, it affects our way of thinking, it affects our lives, it affects how we interact with our family, with our friends, and how we just conduct our life. It affects everything. It affects our thought process and our belief system, which will affect our quality of life, essentially. And we just got to be aware of the fact that it's happening all the time. Especially now with our phones, with our computers, with everything we see, everything we take in, listening to a podcast, no matter what the podcast is, even if it's something really healthy, really beneficial, it is brainwashing. It is. Have you ever had a moment where you turned your computer off, turned your phone off, go into the woods, and just disconnect from everything, disconnect from everybody, and you're just in all you're doing is just you're in the middle of the woods smelling the fresh air, and you're just disconnected from the world, and you have a great sense of peace, a great sense of relaxation that comes over you. I do this whenever I have a chance to go out into the woods, and it feels great. When I'm out in the woods, I don't want to be connected on social media. I don't want to be listening to what's going on the other side of the world. I don't want to know what's going on with the pandemic. I don't care. I'm in a calm, peaceful, relaxed state. And sometimes when we're digesting, we're taking in too much content, whether it's negative or whether it's positive, especially if it's negative, and it can cause a certain amount of anxiety and affects your psyche and affects your way of thinking. And brainwashing, it serves a purpose where media and all the content you're taking in, they want you to think a certain way, to behave a certain way. For example, if you're listening to content about buying a certain product, you're listening to an ad about buying a certain product, and this ad convinces you like, oh, this is a product I may need. So it influences your way of thinking. So you click the purchase button online, you buy that product, whatever they're selling, which from that causes them to make a purchase, which causes them to make profit. That's what ads are meant to do. Meant to influence your way of thinking. Brainwashing, basically. So they can convince you to make that purchase so they can make a profit. And that's like everything you see in the media, online, especially with YouTube now, it's everywhere, social media. It's that, and that's exactly what's being happened, but on a much grander scale, a much global scale. So you need to be very careful of what you're watching and what you're taking in. Especially now the pandemic is slowly dying down after 2 years, and now we're going into the new global narrative is this war in Ukraine, in Russia. And nothing wrong to keep yourself informed, but be very careful of what you're watching, what you're taking in, because it can influence your way of thinking. Because Russia will have its own narrative, own perspective, so will Ukraine, so will the rest of the world, and every other news media outlet. So be careful on it, and I'm specifically talking on a global scale in terms of the war. What I'm talking about on a smaller scale is watching a simple TikTok video. Watching me on YouTube, basically, right now. It is on a very small scale a sense of brainwashing. But I'm just trying to inform you and to keep you a little bit educated and be aware and use more critical thinking skills, and don't believe everything that's being said out there. And that includes me. Don't believe everything I'm saying. Think for yourself. If you don't like what I'm saying, that's okay. That's not a problem. But it's important to think for yourself and have your own opinion, and just be aware that everyone's trying to influence everybody's way of thinking. Everywhere, all the time. Actually, with the pandemic, vaxxers wanted to influence anti-vaxxers, vice versa, and like everyone's entitled to their own opinion when it comes to getting vaccinations. Not everyone's entitled to their own opinion when it comes to controversial topics. You don't need to influence someone into your way of thinking. No, you need to think the way I do. No. You're watching this video right now, you don't need to think the way I do. You make your own decision. Just be aware of everything you're taking in. Make sure Make sure that everything you're watching, everything you're taking in, any kind of content, ask yourself, how is this helping me? Is this helping me? If it's making my life better, if it's giving me a peace of mind, or is it causing more stress and more anxiety? And just be aware of it, and don't let it influence you to a high degree. If it's something of value to you, great. If it's not, just turn it off, and just be aware that you're always being brainwashed. And on that note, thank you so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Do me a big favor. You can like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day.